We're actually going to our last, but certainly not least presentation, Shiza with her company, Off Wind Energy. All right, Shiza, take it away.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so hi everybody, my name is Shiza and I am super pumped to be presenting our Moonshot solution today. So a bit about me, I'm really in love with the cross-section of computer vision and healthcare, along with my amazing teammates, Pavi, who's working on nanotechnology, specifically with quantum dots, Dev, who's really passionate about natural language processing and its various applications, and Bhagavan, who's looking into brain-computer interfaces to understand human behavior and activity. So speaking of brains and evolution, we humans have grown into a mindset where almost nothing we have remains constant. People and things come and go, but one of the few things that have remained constant since the beginning of time has been energy. And we know that renewable energy is the solution to climate change. And if we specifically look at wind turbines, they have such a huge potential, but there are three major limitations that are stopping us from implementing this as our sole source of energy: space, cost, and efficiency. First of all, one wind turbine requires 1.5 acres of land. To put that into perspective, that's the same amount of space as 23 tennis courts. And the fact that one wind turbine farm has at least 5 wind turbines, think about the maintaining, the paying, and renting for all of that space. And on top of this cost, the initial setup, the maintenance, and the manufacturing for just one wind turbine is literally in the millions. So getting a return on investment for this takes a very long time. Not only that, but wind turbines are only 20 to 40% efficient because the wind speeds are not constant. And so to get around these major limitations, we at Off Wind Energy want to pioneer a new approach to impact the wind energy sector. And we'll do this by providing a 7.8 times increase in efficiency while also decreasing the cost by 3 times, saving more than $5 million for every wind turbine. We're building adaptive offshore wind turbines that utilize 3D and 4D printing and specifically mimic the structure of plant leaf veins. Now, that might sound like a mouthful, so let me break it down. The thing is, plants have evolved for billions and billions of years to become as adaptable, flexible, and efficient as possible. And nature is the ultimate anti-fragile environment. So if we want to create our best innovations, our biggest bet is to look at how Mother Nature did it. And that's why we want to mimic the plant leaf vein structure to design our wind turbine blades. Now, in order for that to happen, they have to be adaptable. And since current manufacturing processes can't do that, we propose the method of 4D printing. And 4D printing is essentially enabling a 3D printed object to change its shape or structure depending on external stimulus, such as temperature or light. Let's look at an example of this. So let's say we had an ice cube. This will be our 3D object. And if we had an external stimulus, which in this case would be the temperature, the ice cube would melt. And so it would change its shape or structure. And that's what's happening with our blades of the wind turbines, because they'll be able to change their shape or structure during the rotation cycle. And in turn, they'll allow the blades to face less resistance and less load, which would increase the efficiency. But the thing is, our solution doesn't use ice cubes as our material. It actually uses a 4D printed smart material known as polylactic acid, or PLA for short. Polylactic acid is a biodegradable method that is a much better alternative because of the fact that it's sustainable, it's more efficient, and it's a lot more cost effective as well. So with our 4D printed blades, we'll also be printing the tower and the base of the wind turbine with a 3D printer. And then with this wind turbine, we'll be placing it offshore as a floating offshore wind turbine. So in the next couple of years, when this solution becomes a reality, we'll be making a significant disruption to the wind energy space. First of all, we'll be increasing the efficiency by 7.8 times. We'll also be making this system for every single wind turbine 3 times cheaper, which saves more than $5 million for each wind turbine. Along with this, we'll have a lot more space that we can repurpose for other things such as farming. And so these numbers and calculations were also validated by industry experts, proving its feasibility and large impact to the wind energy space. And so with off-wind energy, one day we'll be able to rely on these wind turbines as a sole source of energy to power the world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome, Shiza. Let's get the judges on here for some feedback / roasting. I'm kidding. Only minimal roasting.
Only minimal.
Yeah.
I can start. I guess my first question is, you kind of talked a lot about 3D, and I actually didn't know that was what 4D printing is, so that's very cool. I learned something new. Do you have to 3D print or 4D print to get that material? Like, can I just build it in a lab today? Or, yeah.
So the thing is like how a 3D printer works. So let's say, for example, when we're printing the tower, that uses like a 3D printer, specifically like a concrete 3D printer. Now for the 4D printer, we're still using the same thing, except it's just a material that's different, that's making it more adaptable, just like the plant leaf veins, it'll just be more adaptable. So we still have that 4D printer. It's just a material that's going to be different. But obviously like the 4D printer would have to like accommodate to those changes just so that it can print it efficiently.
Got it. Sorry, let me rephrase my question. Generally speaking, my understanding of 3D printer, correct me if I'm wrong, is that anything you could 3D print, you could kind of build today without a 3D printer. The main advantage of having a 3D printer or a printer in general, or a 4D printer, is that it reduces the cost to produce, right? You don't need to build it manually. For example, if you 3D print a house, much easier than putting the house together. I think what I'm getting at is, I heard from your presentation at the first couple of slides that you convinced me of 2 problems of wind turbine. One is that they're expensive to build, and 2 is that they're not very efficient. And then throughout your presentation, you talked a lot about 3D printing and 4D printing, which to me is kind of a way to solve potentially cost of production. But I wasn't quite convinced, so maybe you explained a little bit to me, how does that actually improve the efficiency of the problem you described on slide number 2 or 3?
For the efficiency part, so since we're mimicking the structure of plant leaf veins themselves, so plants have like evolved over billions and billions of years, like becoming more adaptable. So the entire process of like improving the efficiency is that since we're 4D printing these like wind turbine blades using polylactic acid, and so essentially 4D printing, there's like geometric code that goes into these materials that allows the structure of these like plant leaf veins to change over time, and like as a response to external stimulus. So and the biggest problem with wind turbines right now is as they're turning, they face wind resistance as they're coming back up, and that stops them from being like as efficient as possible. But by utilizing like 4D printing and smart materials specifically, as the wind turbine blades are turning and responding to the external stimulus, which in this case is wind load, they're able to change structure, and by changing structure, they'll face less resistance, and like all in all, like increasing the efficiency.
No, that's a good answer. Yeah, I think my general feedback, actually, this might go for all the stuff and kind of energy related, is I think Mike and Haley both mentioned this point earlier of like, we all know that this is a big problem, and I think everyone, you don't have to convince most people of that climate change and all this macroeconomics is a problem. The question is more, what is the right angle of attack, or what is the right kind of way to approach this problem? And I think I'm coming from a kind of a venture investor perspective. Maybe if you're pitching to governments, it might be different, but not for you. You all might be a bit too young to know the venture capital firm called Kleiner Perkin, one of the famous venture firms of the last 2 decades. Almost died from essentially investing in climate-related things for the last kind of decade or 2. And one of the big problems is that this whole space is everyone knows is a huge multi-trillion-dollar market. But then just because it's a multi-trillion-dollar market doesn't necessarily mean you capture the value. as efficiently. So I think then, in a problem like this, when the market is huge, it's less about kind of explaining why the market is huge. It's actually more explaining about what unique insight you have and what is your kind of right timing or approach to a specific actually niche problem within this giant trillion dollar market, right? Kind of thing. So that's probably a feedback I'd have for just general, anything that touches energy or climate change, because it's such a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think your presentation like skills are very good. Like, I think that given like your energy and just like, I mean, you're a little loud on the microphone, but like, I don't care because like you are good at what you do. And given that, like, I don't know how much practice or how much experience you have presenting, I feel like you're the best presentation of the day. Like you convey yourself very well, like in that mode. There's one thing that I think, like, I don't know, from TKS in general, like one thing that just everyone should do here is like, I saw Sir John, like you're like the hype man here, or hype woman, sorry if but like that's kind of what got me really happy when you started talking. You're like super high energy, and then you have like people that like support you and like they get it. So I don't know, like I was kind of expecting a little bit more of an audience. Like I think about like a pro sports team, like when they go home and they're in the arena and they're cheering on their like MVPs and like different people, and they're booing the, you know, the competitors. Obviously everyone's on the same team here, so you better not be booing anybody. But in this situation, I think like that was what made this very good too, is that you have people that like are, I mean, one person that, you know, going and making sure that you do a great job. I think in this situation, like you have to like surround yourself with people that are going to give you really tough feedback when you're doing presentations, because if you want to take, you know, your skills and present on global stages or go on, you know, CNN or something else like that to talk about something huge, like you have the shortest delta to that period based on all presenters that I saw today. And I think like for other folks in the room that are thinking about like what made this presentation good, just in the way that you convey it, again, not the content, just in the way that you convey it, is that you come across super genuine in the way that you present it, even though like there are some things that you don't know as well as others. So for the folks that like don't have the presentation skills, like I hope that you can mentor some of them and just like give them feedback on like what you do to prepare. But, you know, for example, like Garrick, like I think you need to make a decision on like what side you want to play, right? Like you can either be that stoic presenter or you can be that like hyper energy enthusiastic presenter. So yeah, I mean, like that was just like some quick feedback on just like the third wall that lives between the audience and you, and then just like making sure your team is like on your side and you are kind of like feeding off that energy. But I would also say too, is like, because you're so energetic about this subject or just presenting in general, is that you kind of need to think through like the speed and the delivery and the content extra hard, just because you want it to be simple and you want to, like your goal is to walk away from this meeting with like money or more team members or whatever else it is, and just knowing your audience. Like you need to, and perhaps you've already done this, but that's really what I'm thinking through for you, is just, you can obviously watch videos of people that you idolize and how they present, and you can pick and choose pieces that you want to replicate, and you can throw other pieces out, and you can like do all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, what will support your presentation style is like the content that's there. So I think that you have some good stuff, like the tennis court analogy that I was writing down as you're kind of going through things. But like, as you're thinking through these like larger scale problems, like I didn't get the sense that like you actually solve the efficiency problem, because like what you said in the presentation, and again, you can push back on this, but like you said that the problem with wind energy is that there's not consistent wind sources, and that leads to the 60% or 80% loss in efficiency there. The problem is that you're not actually solving that problem from what I see. Like you're creating another wind turbine. You're not solving wind. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Right. So yeah, we did look into that too. Another solution that we came across, but then didn't decide to include in the presentation was ducted wind turbines, which kind of like acts in a vacuum in a way where it like takes that wind and just increases the speed, because you're right, like that is a big problem as well. But for the sake of like just making it more simple, we decided not to include it. But yeah, for sure, that's like something we're going to look at too.
And then the last piece is Dev, you know this content very well. Like I think you know this content probably more than Shiza. Like I feel like when you answered Charlie's question, it was like, oh, like this guy knows. So I don't know what you can do in this situation, but as like a technical person that's coming in, like that's very strong and knows this stuff. And I get like a lot of, like, when you answer that question, like, that's the guy that I would put my money into. Shiza, sorry, but you are very trustworthy in that situation, but I kind of lean toward Dev as he was answering the question, so.
I'd say, yeah, you kind of need both like those types of people, right? Because like this company is probably the one that out of all the presentations, I'm like, I'd work there. Yeah, I'm like that. And part of that literally was that like one comment in the chat, like that's, I mean, that's the equivalent of like your friends hyping you up, or experts or anyone hyping you up and supporting you like online, like even, you know, even on like social media and stuff like that. I've seen that be like a big impact in like building our own, like my own company's credibility, literally. And not even necessarily with investors, but with like employees. Like it's those first few hires can be really, really hard because you're literally like, I just have an idea and like pretty much that's it. Or at least like that's where I started. Like I honestly didn't even have a prototype or anything. So like, you know, having that like ability to, you're pretty much always selling. Like that's like what I've learned in the last year is like any call I'm on, I'm selling in some type of way. And like, that's great. So like, she's like that energy that you're carrying throughout this or throughout your presentation can be really, really great for that, for convincing people of like, this is my vision for the world. And like, this is going to be the thing that solves it. And then Dev, to your point, like if you guys were on like a call with investors or whatever, and you're just like rapid fire answering their technical questions, like I think that's such a good like dynamic to have. I didn't have like a technical person, but I also I'm not building anything with emerging tech. So it's like, okay. But I think that's really, oh, sorry, that is my McDonald's. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. So anyway, so I just wanted to call out, I like that dynamic, just in terms of like team building in general. It's like always finding that person. And like, I'm sorry for everyone else on the team, I just didn't hear you speak. So I'm sure you guys have like important roles in this team. Oh God, important roles on this team as well. But like, I think this seems like a very good team dynamic. So I mainly wanted to say that.
Yeah, the thing is like we did like go pretty technically deep, like especially Dev, he made like a whole research paper. I've even linked it. It's like, yeah, so we made like a whole research paper and like Dev literally wrote like most of it. But then obviously like the team dynamic is such a big part, and we talked about this in like the TKS session as well, like how we all contributed. And then obviously like, shout out to my team and like a bunch of other people who like before my presentation just like hyped me up. So yeah, shout out for them.
This is crazy.
Right.
I feel like I know what I'm doing this afternoon. Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
The
Awesome.
white papers coming out.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Shiza. Thank you, Shiza and team. Thank you, everyone who presented. What we're going to do now is Kim is going to go with the judges and they are going to deliberate on our winners. We're going to have 3 categories: best overall, best X award, which is like the most moonshot worthy idea, and then the TED Award, which is for the best presentation. So we are going to go deliberate. I'm going to hang back with you guys for a special secret surprise award. So
Okay, so I will be in the judges room. We will go over there now. See you guys back in a few. We are going to go through the awards that we have here with the judges, and then we do have one final award after that. So we will start off with Charlie. Let me get him up here. Okay, Charlie and Mike and Haley all have an award to present to you guys. So Charlie, take it away.
Amazing. So the first award is the Tedx Award. Y'all had great narratives. The Tedx Award goes to the one with the best presentation. So drum rolls, please. The winner is the one with 23 tennis courts, Off Wind Energy.
Woo! Yeah, hey, she's his team,
Awesome.
Off Wind Energy.
Great. Super, super exciting.
And Haley.
Cool. So I'll be presenting the X Award, which is biggest moonshot idea, most innovative idea, and that is going to drum roll. Maternity. Love your guys' idea. So great job.
That was Melanie's team, Melanie's presentation. Great job, guys.
Super exciting. Last but not least, best overall.
The best overall. This was a team that felt in sync. They felt like I had the highest trust in them. And I think unanimously the judges were pretty convinced that this could be possible. So I think in this situation, the best overall also goes to Off Wind Energy.
Woo!
Off Wind Energy killing it. All right, we have one more award, which is our Viewers' Choice Award that our students and parents got to participate in. And the best Viewers' Choice Award winner is also Off Wind Energy.